I'm here with filmmaker Ira Sachs and actor Zachary. And can you tell us a little bit about your new film, Keep the Lights On, Ira?
Yes. Keep the Lights On is the story of a relationship between two men in New York City over the recent past that takes place over about 10 years of time, and it's a kind of epic story of two people who get together, and for many reasons, including sex and drugs and all the things that sometimes get in the way of an easy life together, they stay together. They hold on to each other, and it's a film that really questions and asks why two men who have so much love for each other, but also so much pain with each other, what keeps them together and why they hold on.
And some people are saying it's slightly autobiographical. Did you have an experience with a sort of person like that?
The film began in a very autobiographical place. I was in a relationship that ended in 2007, and really on the last day of the relationship, I had a sense that there was a first day, and there was a last day, and there was a story in between.
Right.
And I also felt like the story of that relationship, like this, was not one that we often see in film. The stories of what gay men's life like in a city like New York, in our culture, which is, by the way, like looks a lot different than most people think in terms of gay, straight, different cultures, different races, different mixture of things. There is this certain new way that we're all living that I hope to try to get across also.
And do you think the use of drugs in sort of like a tumultuous relationship, is that typical of gay relationships, or is it just some relationships,
Well, I think I'm not being a social scientist to say that, but also to say that, I mean, that drugs have been a central part of gay culture.
For sure.
And this film tried to look at sex and drugs and all behavior, how you are with your friends and how you are with your family and how you are on your birthday, without judgment.
For sure.
And shamelessly, and tried to look at behavior directly, so that in a way allows people to enter into the discussions about how we live and what's working and what's not working, and not to be afraid.
Cool. And what was it like? You sort of play the drug addict character.
Sort of.
There's other.
There's a lot of good character.
You play Paul, who is the boyfriend of the sort of more stable one in the relationship. What was that like to have to? Yeah. What was it like to play that character?
Well, it was challenging at times to really go to the places that we had to go to physically and emotionally with the drug use, and to sort of put myself in the shoes of somebody that was going through what Paul goes through. It was a challenge, but it was a fun challenge because I was surrounded by great collaborators and supportive people that helped me when I couldn't quite get there on my own.
And I don't know if you're gay or not, but have you played a gay character before?
Yeah, I did a TV show it was for like the N Channel years ago, where I played a gay teenager. But since then, I don't. Oh no, I have. I did a Craig Lucas play in New York a few years ago called Prayer for My Enemy.
And have you ever done? Have you ever done one that's so sort of explicit? There's some pretty raunchy sex scenes.
No, I mean I've done the naked thing before.
Yeah.
Taking Woodstock, I was running around naked as a hippie, but in a different circumstance. So that's the first time that I ever, had that sort of physical intimacy on camera. And also the first time I had ever had to use drugs like that on camera.
Did you? Were they real drugs or?
No. And water. Well, no,
because
that was the crystal meth. The crack was a nut. It was like a
Yeah.
hazelnut.
Oh, okay.
And the drugs aren't, the film is less about the exact drugs and what the effects are, and more about the relationship, right?
Yeah, it's a relationship story, and but it's about the details of the relationship. So we tried to get them right. So that includes like the changing nature of how gay men have hooked up in New York. So we have phone sex lines, and we have computer hooked up, we have different things. It's also how gay men's lives are integrated into broader lives. And these characters, they're artists. They have a close community of friends and families, and that's sort of what my life looks like. I think it's also what Zach looks like, the gay people, and I think this is the big difference in a way. Someone asked me what is the difference between queer cinema now and queer cinema 20 years ago, and I think I didn't need to set out to make a queer film because I just needed to tell my own story. In a way, 20 years ago we were trying to define our identity in a certain way, and I feel like I'm more comfortable in my identity, so I just need to be direct about
Mm-hmm.
what I see.
And there are, in the sex scenes, spoiler alert, there's some scrotum, some butt. So do you think that there's sort of a little debate going on right now about whether Hollywood needs more gay sex in order for us to be accepted in the mainstream or whatnot? How do you guys feel about that stuff?
I don't know, like necessarily what Hollywood does or doesn't need. I know that this film, to me, in watching it, it's not about shock. It's not about showing things that we shouldn't be looking at. It's not about overexposing sex.
Right.
It's a character in the film, the sex and the drugs. I mean, there's something that happens in a relationship between two people when you start by meeting someone, saying hello, having sex, and then within a couple of weeks you're like smoking crack and having sex. You've crossed lines, I think, that I would imagine in a relationship absent of those things it might take months to create that intimacy. So I think that's a sort of interesting way in, an interesting exploration of it, and that's something I think, of course, we would all love to see more of, which is the different ways that relationships happen and the different ways that people find intimacy, and how a lot of those methods are secrets to us because we have a lot of shame surrounding them.
True.
And that shame, if we could get rid of all of that, would probably be a great thing for everybody, Hollywood included.
Yep.
I mean, I would also just say to your viewing audience that if you go to this film thinking it's going to be a sex romp, you're going to be disappointed because the sex is really, the sex is really in the context of how some people relate to each other. So, and it's really, really an emotional story. I mean, I think that's really what we set out to do.
There is one scene where I think that was particularly striking, where your character, Zachary, is having sex with a prostitute. And I think it's in Europe somewhere. Or was it New York?
We're in a hotel
It's in Tribeca.
Oh, okay. No, I know the area well. In a way. It's almost like like you go as a tourist to see all the rich people, I think. Anyway, so during that scene, the boyfriend character is holding your hand while you're getting, kind of topped by a prostitute. What was that scene like to film?
It was, I think, a really easy moment to act.
Yeah.
Because the circumstances were so real.
Yeah.
We're lying there, no one has any clothes on, and he comes in from the other room. And, Tor has a really strong presence, and so when he enters a room, you feel the shift. You feel the change. So for me, it was really just about living in it and breathing in it. And by the time that day was over, I was emotionally exhausted. For sure. I don't know what it must have been like for you to see that.
Well, I think the whole film, what I try to do, I don't actually rehearse with my actors before we start shooting. We talk a lot. We talk individually about the scenes, but I don't let them work with each other or say anything to each other before the cameras are rolling. And because what I'm trying to capture is something that happens only in a moment. And I think what happened in that scene, as in many other scenes in the film, is that something was happening in that moment that we captured on film. There was an emotional relationship between the three characters in that scene that was immediate, and it doesn't have to be recreated. We just have to get it once.
And sort of avid attention payers might have noticed that a very similar scene to this showed up in Bill Clegg's memoir. So is it based on, a true story? Did that scene happen in real life?
The scene, I mean, a lot of the scenes in the film are based on things that are really personal to me. But, it's interesting. Once you start creating a film, the lead character is Danish.
Yep.
Like,
I noticed.
Not Danish.
And you are gay and Jewish,
I'm gay and Jewish and from Memphis.
From Memphis.
Proudly from Memphis, Tennessee. So it becomes something in the process of making the film that is there's something different. I mean, I think this is a film about these two characters, Eric and Paul. I made a feature film called 40 Shades of Blue, which is about a Russian woman living in Memphis, and I identify with her.
Yeah.
Madame Bovary. It's like, so I feel like the details are real, but they're not necessarily mine.
Okay. Thanks so much for talking, guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.